So just last week, I attended another church for our monthly interfaith meeting. This church meets in a rented space, a meeting hall. The walls were bare and whitewashed. The cafeteria tables and floors smelled of disinfectant. There was no sign that this could be a sacred space. I wondered how they would be able to convert it into something that truly felt like a sanctuary on Sunday. They would have to set up tables and chairs and put pictures on the walls. They would have to create a worship platform and an area for music, all for just 2 hours on a Sunday. The minister was dynamic and inspiring, but I felt sorry for her after hearing the lengths they had to go to each week to transform this uninspiring space into their worship home. Their administrator told me how desperately they were looking for their own church home, a place which truly reflected their values and allowed them to have a beautiful sanctuary. Here they had to pack and unpack their church every week and work enormously hard to make it even seem like a sacred space. I felt sorry for them, knowing the struggle it is to find worship space in the Conejo Valley. As I drove away that day, I thought about CVUUF and felt so grateful. You know well what it's like to have to set up everything from scratch on a Sunday morning, don't you? And afterwards make it all disappear like you weren't even there. You did that for 40 plus years. It's hard. You know what it's like not to have a home you can truly be proud of, that you can use throughout the week and offer to others as a sanctuary. You know what it's like not to have classrooms for our children to learn and grow. So the Conejo Valley UU Fellowship has much to celebrate, my friends. As I stand here in this beautiful sanctuary, decorated in pale pastels, with a lovely altar, comfy chairs that you're all sitting on, lots of useful technology, air conditioning and theatrical lighting, I'm aware of how much thought and care was put into creating this space. I remember the first time I saw the gorgeous library. I was so excited and moved by having such a thoughtful, abundant resource here. And when I sit in my office across the way or wander up to the RE classrooms, which are bursting with joy and creativity, I can see the attention, resources, and inspiration that you all put into this community. This congregation didn't have its own buildings until 2008. So we're still relatively new homeowners. And yet, isn't it amazing how easily we can take things for granted? My family and I bought our home in Santa Barbara in 2008, right around the same time. And it's surprising how quickly the home we saved up for years and now work diligently to maintain can quickly be taken for granted once we live in it on a daily basis. This home, which you worked so hard as a community to manifest, is truly a special place. It speaks of your mission and vision. Your mission is even painted on the walls. This is indeed a place to nurture spiritually courageous people who transform the world through justice and compassion. And all of it is only possible because of your generosity. Your immense generosity at the time of purchase and your ongoing gifts to keep the lights on, the mortgage and rent paid, and the facility cared for. You are generous, visionary people. And this building is a living, breathing testament to that. So thank you. In my few months here, I've already seen your generosity in so many different ways. Your abundant donation of your time and leadership is exemplary. Day in and day out, I'm impressed by the phenomenal commitment you all show to the well-being of this community. Perhaps it's your roots as a fellowship, where you knew that if you didn't show up and do the work, no one else would. Or perhaps it's just the kind of extraordinary people that CVUUF attracts and engages. But your generosity is remarkable, not just in this community, but to our faith. And not just to our faith, but to the overall betterment of humanity and this planet. And that is a vital example to set at this time of divisiveness, meanness, self-interest, and greed. You seem to know deeply in your heart that what we do here is so much more than a social club or a liberal religious home for you and your family. What we do here, week in and week out, is to transform lives. Is to transform lives. And in some cases, this transformation is subtle. It might be the support you get to help you work through a thorny life issue. Or maybe it's all of the friendships that sustain you through difficult times. Or perhaps it's what you learn in our groups and classes. But in other cases, the transformation can be as crucial and dramatic as saving someone's life. Yes, you heard me. We save lives as Unitarian Universalists, and not in the traditional Baptist way, but we save lives. It may not even be apparent to us whose lives have been saved, but I know there are those among us who can testify to the second, third, or even fourth chances they've gotten by being part of this fellowship. Sam is a transgender teenager. In his early teens, Sam made the scary transition from being a girl to living as a boy. He felt alienated by society with his new gender identity and was bullied at school. He had a hard time finding friends and people to trust. Most people didn't know how to be around him. Sam was deeply depressed and often felt suicidal. On one such day, he was desperately surfing the web to find help when he came across a UU congregation. He showed up the next day to check out one of our YRUU groups. When he arrived, he was nervous and barely smiled or said a word. But the open-minded, caring teens in that group welcomed him, and he quickly felt at home. He finally discovered it was safe to be himself. Today, Sam laughs with new friends and has become a leader in the congregation and is embraced just as he is. Unitarian Universalism saved his life. Literally saved his life by giving him a place he could call home. A place where he was accepted, loved, and understood. This faith saved his life. So let's not ever underestimate the work we do here. Mary was a middle-aged, devout Catholic and stay-at-home mom to her kids. After 25 years of marriage with kids at college, Mary's husband left to pursue another relationship. With this stigma, she was ostracized by her conservative church. She felt alone and depressed. She wasn't actually sure how to go on. or whether she even wanted to, until she found one of our congregations through her exercise buddy. At first, she would simply sit in the back row and cry during services. But after a while, she made new friends, and she felt supported and loved. Soon she got involved with social justice and membership work. Mary found renewed purpose, as well as a faith and friends who accept her exactly as she is. And today, Mary credits Unitarian Universalism with saving her life at a difficult time. These are real people. And I know there are similar stories right amongst us here where people felt alone or depressed and then found this community they call home. We offer sanctuary. We offer love and fellowship. We offer purpose for our lives. We offer ways to give back and to share our gifts and interests. So when you greet a newcomer or invite someone to join a chalice circle or to participate in the choir or our theater group, you never know the huge difference you might be making in their life. Trust that you are opening a new door. Trust that even if you don't hear about it, it could be transformational for them. Unitarian Universalism allows us to be truly ourselves, our very best selves, the selves we aspire to be. Our faith gives us permission to follow our reason as well as our hearts. Our faith encourages us to bring our experience and inner knowing in our quest for truth and meaning. Our faith offers us the opportunity to question and wrestle with the difficult issues of life. In fact, Unitarian Universalism is often described as a faith that allows us to be with the questions of life without the need to provide predetermined answers for everything. Our faith encourages our children to be responsible, inspired and thoughtful citizens who care for this planet. Our faith embraces love and invites people of goodwill into values-based communities that can make a difference in the world. That is what we have right here, my friends. That is the gift we offer one another with our generosity. We have that and so much more right here at the Conejo Valley UU Fellowship. Are you inspired yet? No, seriously, isn't that inspiring? How I would love for it all to happen miraculously, without the need for financial support or requests. But as Unitarian Universalists, we don't necessarily believe in miracles or wait for manna to pour from heaven. So if we want our communities to thrive, we have to be comfortable talking about how we make that happen. We have to be comfortable talking about money. Money, 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 money. The reality of our 21st century lives is that much of what we value costs money. Just as we pay fees to gyms, colleges, and private schools, and support some nonprofits, we need to pay to run our church. We need to compensate our dedicated staff fairly, pay the rent and mortgage, and provide care and maintenance for this beautiful building, for both of these buildings. We need to support our many programs, print materials and supplies for music, worship, and RE. And we need to keep the lights on, my friends, and share the word about our existence so this can be a home for the many people who don't even know it exists yet. I know you know this, that none of this can happen without your help. Unlike synagogues, we don't require our congregants to pay a certain amount every year to be a member. We open our doors to all people of goodwill. Unlike many religious denominations, we don't require tithing, nor do we get subsidies from any hierarchy. In fact, it's quite the opposite. We actually pay into the Unitarian Universalist Association according to how many members we have and receive services for those dues. But no one bails out our congregation or any other UU congregation. Reverend Gary Kowalski writes that people in our congregations have to give up the consumer mindset and begin to think of themselves instead as shareholders, investors, co-owners in what happens in this church, with a joint share in the success of this enterprise. And none of this can happen without that loaded word, money. Just as you can't run a non-profit or any kind of organization without money, you can't operate a healthy church without money. I believe we need to reclaim that word from a more fearless place and look at it as energy. Money is simply energy. Money is fuel to create things. Now, some people may have more of that kind of energy, while others may have more creative energy, or more start-up energy, or more volunteer energy. It all requires energy that simply manifests in different ways. But one thing is clear: this congregation exists because of the energy you put into it. It exists because of you. This whole community, its buildings, its programs, its fellowship exist because of your generosity and commitment. And as I look out at all of you, I speak to you with love and truth about a difficult subject, I know. But this is here because of you. Everything is here because you manifested it. You made this happen. You created this, and you are sustaining this. You are the hard-working investors who keep our home paid for. You are the shareholders who continue to replenish and sustain our finances in a generous, caring, foresighted way. This is all because of you. Now that is something to celebrate, and I hope we will really live it up in between services today and celebrate all of our generosity. I remember hearing the story of an 18-year-old student by the name of Rakesh. Rakesh had just left home to live by himself, so money was extremely tight. He put an ad on Craigslist stating that he was looking for a cheap laptop for his first semester of college. Thomas, a gentleman in his 70s, replied saying he had one. When Thomas dropped it off, it turned out to be nearly a brand new computer. And yet Thomas insisted he wanted nothing in return. I bought this 6 months ago, he said, but I only use my desktop. It just sits around collecting dust, so now I consider it a good investment in a young, bright future. Rakesh was deeply moved and accepted the amazing gift from this stranger with great gratitude. He has since often told the tale of Thomas's generosity, and it has inspired him to pay it forward. That's what we're doing here. We're not only investing in our capacities, but we're paying it forward to the young, bright future that is so evident in our RE classes and that you saw earlier here in this service. As a large family, we're investing in a multi-generational home for families who seek a place where adults model inclusive and generous values so that their children may be inspired to emulate that behavior. And with what we're seeing daily on television, it's more important than ever for our children to be surrounded by adults such as you who model integrity, inclusivity, thoughtfulness, and generosity. Reverend Rebecca Parker tells the story of what a congregation member said during a pledge drive at her parish. I first began to make generous financial commitments to my congregation because I was taught to do so by my church, and my church taught me to obey its teachings. But as I matured in my faith, I began to understand that obedience was not all that important and could even be destructive. I continued to make generous pledges, however, for a different reason. I made my financial commitment because the people I loved most and admired made generous pledges. My parents and leaders of the religious community whose lives really challenged me by their goodness. I wanted to be like them. So I made generous financial commitments in imitation of those I loved, he went on. But as my faith matured further, I came to my own reason for making generous financial commitments, he said. I do it now because to make a generous pledge is to tell the truth about who I am. If I didn't pledge generously, it would say that I'm a person who has nothing to give, a person who had received nothing from life, a person who didn't matter to the larger society or whose life's meaning was in providing for his own needs alone. But in fact, I'm the opposite of all of those things, he said. I'm a person who has something to give. I'm a person who's received abundantly from life. I'm a person whose presence matters in the world. I'm a person whose life has meaning because I'm connected to and care about many things larger than myself. If I didn't make a generous financial commitment, I would lose track of these truths about who I am. Well, I thought that was fascinating. So inspired by that, I ask us all now, what kind of person do we want to be? What are the truths we care about that speak to who we are? Who are we? The Buddhist Lama Surya Das writes, "Giving brings happiness at every stage of its expression. We experience joy in forming the intention to be generous. We experience joy in the actual act of giving something. And we experience joy in remembering the fact that we have given." Henry Nouwen, a Christian theologian, writes, "Every time I take a step in the direction of generosity, I know that I am moving from fear to love." I know we are moving from fear to love. And Unitarian Universalist minister Carl Gregg writes, "Whereas scarcity thinking leaves us isolated and alone, generosity makes us more aware of our connection to the interdependent web of all existence." And I know many of you know this. So today, as we celebrate the generosity of this community, I thank you for honoring our interdependent web. Thank you for giving to this community, affecting change not only in our own lives, but in the lives of so many others as well. Thank you for sharing your gifts with your people, with your family. Because we are a family. We are your chosen family. We do not love one another because we are compelled to. We love one another because we choose to. We stand by each other and support each other to the ends of our days. This is our home. This is our family. This is our tribe, our fellowship, our community. May we be proud of what we co-create, and indeed, as you sang earlier, be bound together by love.